Welcome to Friday afternoon's Late Lunch on LMFM Radio. Always great to have you with us on the show. Lots coming up. It's always packed on Fridays, packed every day, but Friday in particular because, of course, we bring you our comedy every Friday. We have a cracker for you today from Jen Brister. We have our TV theme competition. Oh, it's a classic today. I hope you get it. Anyway, nice prize to give away. Sport with David Sheehan. We're in the garden with Nicky Kyle. And slippers are back. Big time. I haven't a pair to me name. Never have. Nor never will, but they are the fashion item of the moment, and we're going to be talking to Lisa Smith, M&S fashion advisor, on the show in a wee while. If you want to get in touch with us this Friday afternoon, don't forget the usual numbers: 086 1800 658 by WhatsApp or text, and you'll need those numbers later on, of course, for the competition. My first guest today bears out the axiom, it's never too late in life. Yes, he's been big time involved in the music business, and now, would you believe, he is a qualified barrister, and that didn't happen when he was a young fella either. He's going to tell us his story. Welcome to the show, Darren Lawler.
Hiya, Gerry. How are you? I'm
really good. I'm delighted to have you with us on Late Lunch this afternoon. Tell me about the music, you and Aslan. You were obviously into music from a young fella. What was your scene? Who was your music?
It was my music. I was kind of into everything. I grew up in the house with the 60s and 70s, playing mum and dad, playing the 60s and 70s, and I was always fascinated with music. But the Aslan thing kind of came about by accident. I used to train with a friend of mine in the gym. He was in a band. I kind of got to work with the band. They broke up, and the singer and the piano player decided to do something different. So they went supporting Aslan, and I got to know Aslan, and then they offered me a job as the roadie and production manager, and I hadn't a clue what that meant. But I very quickly learned under their watchful eye, and it just began from there. As simple as that, you know.
And to let listeners know, you didn't stay long term at school either. You left when you were 14. Had you any exams or anything under your belt at that stage?
I had nothing, Gerry. I left school around the age of 14. I had no Intercert, Leaving Cert. There were the exams at the time. Group Cert, I had nothing. And I had left school. I was very lucky that I had little part-time jobs, and I was working away, and I had just left school. I had no issues, and I just left school early. Eventually, I got working in Presco at the age of, I think it's before my 18th birthday. And my kind of proper working life started from there. And then slowly, I kept a job with Presco and moved into working with Aslan. But I had no education. I had nothing.
And when you mentioned Presco, was that your day job while you could keep the Aslan thing going as well? Or did you leave that to go full-time with Aslan?
No, well, Aslan would gig mainly at night time, yes. And I would work in Presco, and I would keep the Aslan thing going at the same time, because I always felt, you know, because I had no education, I was working in Presco as a labourer, as machine operative, and I always felt that I just needed something behind me in case I fell. And you know, later on in life I did fall.
Well, you know, that's a good thing and good advice for anybody too. You know, a bird in the hand or two in the bush, as they say. But, you know, when you're at something else on the side, it's good to have that steady income which you have with the job. When you say you fell, what do you mean you fell?
Well, when I fell, there's many people in this world, Gerry, who are born into a world full of everything. But they feel that there's nothing in it for them. And the older I got, and the more I was working with, let's say, with bands or, you know, moving into different areas, I realised that I had nothing to fall back on. I had no education, you know. All I had was memories of good times and famous people I met and photographs and maybe discs on the wall. But I had no education. And as you go on later on in life, for me anyway, it was something that just came knocking on the door of my consciousness to say, you know, we need to do something about this. But I thought it was too late. I thought it was too late to go back to school. And that's where I felt I had fell, until when I had finished for Aslan, I had put a taxi on the road. I did a few gigs with George Murphy and the Dubliners and Mickey Hart and so on and so forth. But my passion was with Aslan. And so I put a taxi on the road, and I was driving down through Drumcondra one night, picked up 3 people, one passenger sat in the front, 2 sat in the back, and the passenger who was in the front was Fiona Gray, and we had a chat in the car, and she wanted guitar lessons, and I gave her my number, And so on, one thing led to another, and we became friends, and then we got into a relationship. And around 2009, she said to me, would I not go back to school and study law or medicine? And Gerry, I thought she was mad. You know, I'm 50 now, and I think at the time I was 38. And, you know, we had no children at the time. And I remember ringing my friend Stephen, and I said, oh, she's telling me what to do already. You know, she wants me to go back to school. Oh, go back to school would be great. But she wants me to do law. Oh, you'd be great doing law. And I just thought it was the most. You might as well just pick me up now and stick me on the stage with Westlife. You know, it's the same equivalence. But I took her advice and I took her enthusiasm, and I went into DBS, and the journey began from there. It's as very simple as that, you know.
I can see the movie already. I see it. I see the movie of this life story. What a love story. What a meeting. What a by chance get together with the woman who guided you into this wonderful career that you have now. And in you went to DBS, having left school at 14. Was that challenging, you know, to actually make that step?
It was incredible. I remember going to DBS the day for the kind of it's like, well, first I had to go up to meet DBS and see would they accept me in, because I had no education. And they did. You know, they said, look, you know, this is what it's going to cost. You come in for the first year and we'll see how it goes, and anything we need to fix or correct, we'll do it then. And the support was great. So I had to do a 3-year law degree, and I had to go in at night time. I was driving my taxi during the day and sometimes at night time. And I had to go into DBS, and effectively I could read and I could write, but I had to kind of learn to read properly again, because when I would read something, I would think everything was important on the page because it was there. And in DBS, it taught me that skill to pick out, you know, what is important and what's relevant. But it was a challenge. I would drive around. At night time, I'd record my notes from DBS into my phone and then drive around the streets of Dublin with my notes playing over the loudspeaker in the car, obviously when nobody was in the car. And that's how I had to learn. And so it was a challenge, but it was the best adventure I've ever been, you know, helped into, because it was something I would never have thought or dreamt of doing at any stage of my life, particularly when I was 38.
And you qualified. You did your 3 years, and through it you went. How did you find it? Because you had a lot of life education, may I say, and you had been in the workplace, etc., and you picked it up and away you went. Was it challenging?
It was challenging for me. Like I was in a college where people who worked for the Department of Justice, people who were guards, and people who worked in the passport office. I'm not saying I got treated any different by the college or treated any different by the students, but I felt I had a lot of catching up to do. You know, I was at that time a taxi driver. You know, I loved driving my taxi, but I was kind of moving forward, but at the same time stepping back in time, trying to catch up on where I was in life. And it was an incredible challenge. What made it easier for me was I had met a guard in Dublin Business School called Fergal McSherry. And when we were in our second year, I think it was, he said, come on, and we become barristers when we finish here in year 3. And I was like, I went home and I said to Fiona, Fergal wants me to become a barrister. And I said, he's mad. Oh, that's a great idea, she says. We'll prep you for that. And it was kind of the next thing. So I was on one high-speed train one way, and then suddenly I had to jump on another one going the opposite way. And but it was a challenge, and it was fun, it was scary, but it was worth every second.
3 years for the degree at Dublin Business School. How long then before you became a fully fledged barrister?
I became a barrister in 2015. I had finished DBS in 2013. And I had done the 3-year law degree then. And to get into the King's Inns, you have to do an entrance exam. And the entrance exams are 5 days. So there's one every day for 5 days at that time. And I had failed one of the 5 exams. So I had to go back a year later and redo the exams again. You have to do
them all. Is that the way it works? You must get them all.
To get into the King's Inns. Yeah. So I redid the exams then, I think it was, in 2013. And then I did the barrister law degree part-time, which was every weekend or every second weekend for 2 years. So in 2015, we were sitting at home, and the postman, came to the house, and he had an envelope, and we mugged him, took the envelope, and I had passed the barrister law degree, and it was just, I just couldn't explain it to you. You know,
what a feeling! What a feeling! And I can only imagine how you felt at that stage. Well, I want to say, well done to you, congratulations to you. And we got to mention Fiona Gray Lawler, your wonderful wife, who is Assistant Director of Nursing, yes, at St James's Hospital in Dublin.
In St James's Hospital, when I had to park the taxi up because things were getting bad just before I get into the King's Inns. And yeah, so she says retrain as a healthcare assistant. So I was back in college again, training as a healthcare assistant. And I worked in St James's for a couple of years to kind of pay my way through college.
Yes.
The best thing about working in St James's Hospital was the people skills that you gain are incredible. Because you're dealing with, some patients who are vulnerable, families who are concerned, and you're dealing with highly qualified people and incredible people to work with, but they treat you as the same. You're learning things around them all the time. And my ambition from the time I went back to school in DBS in 2009 was to learn as much as I can in such a short period of time. I was trying to catch up on my yesterdays, because my yesterdays were meant to be for school. Unfortunately, they weren't. And I just try to pass that message on to students who come into the course. We invite students into the course and we'll have a talk and we'll say, don't be me, stay in school. And if you can't stay in school, go back at the earliest opportunity.
It's never too late. That's your theme. That is your little strapline. It is never too late in life, and you are a real example of this. You're fantastic, and you're a practising barrister now, working away.
I'm working away. I'm there since 2015. I mainly practice in the area of criminal law, and I just think that, everything is unprecedented until it happens for the first time. And I grew up in Finglas. I have relations in town and Ballymun and mainly on the north side. And what happens, Gerry, is that some people, they fall into this kind of magical space that they feel they can't get out, whether it's because they have a drug issue, it could be unemployment, or it could be homelessness. And the way I see things is that, every drug is an enemy-made friend, and it prevents you from returning to reality. So when I see some of my friends or some family or neighbours who have fallen on hard times, whether through drugs, I was always the type who kind of went in and tried to help them out. When I go into court now, some of those people I know, some people I don't know, are in court because of things that they have foolishly done and things that they had no choice to do. Maybe they had to steal to feed themselves, people who are homelessness. And when I go into court, I represent them to the best of my ability, remembering where they've come from and the circumstances surrounding where they come from. But also, they've been accused of committing a crime. And I love when I can stand up in court and explain to the court the circumstances of that person, not to excuse what they've done, but just to kind of shine a different reality on where they've been and where their life was at that time, or where their headspace was at that time, And I feel a great honour that I'm able to do that.
It's fantastic to ponder what you've just said, because you are of them and they are of you.
Yeah, we all come from something.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that anybody who works in a certain type of job pretends they come from nothing. But there's a reality that people, from where I come from, have to live up to. And people are born into this world and we all have choices. But sometimes circumstances take away that choice. And when you're locked in a dark place, life is not a reality. And what I do now personally on my spare time is I do my own little bit for charity. And I just try to help people out of that darkness, even if it's just for a day or even if it's just for a couple of weeks. What we do, Gerry, is that I invite students into the courts, particularly ones who have gone back to school, who are my age, maybe younger, or students who feel that they're never going to progress from where they are. And I say, come into the courts with me for a week and come around and we'll see how the criminal justice system works, to educate them, to let them see that everybody in this building, a lot of them deserve to be there, who do things or who are accused of doing things. And there's people who just happen to be there because of their circumstance. And when I bring the students in for a week, they see a different side to a reality that they're part of, but they're kind of shied away from it because they're living in their own bubble. And I have had 3 students now, and I call them students, return to school and get an education. And one of them is actually a barrister now, got called to the bar this year. One is training to be a solicitor. And the other person is in the system at the moment getting their law degree. So I'm very proud that I have just slightly faced somebody in the same direction that Fiona had faced me in. And that direction is, it's never too late to look in the mirror and say to yourself, I can do anything that is put in front of me.
Are there some people beyond redemption, though? You know, you mentioned that circumstances dictate and where you're born is an accident of destiny, etc. But there are some people, you know, when they become hardened in the criminal world and that, and you've obviously moved in this circle too as well. Are there some people just lost?
Well, I think everybody gets lost in their life. And one of my colleagues, Paul Byrne, had said to me, and I have the quote written down here, he says, the greatest sin in life is not to be curious. And I agree with that to some extent, because we're all curious about many things, about education or what life could have been like. And I think that everybody maybe, at some stage in their life, can turn away from where they've been, whether it be able to cop on themselves or maybe they could be helped. So I don't think that anything is unfixable. I think that many things are manageable. You know, I mean, many people are diagnosed with illnesses that can't be cured, but they can be managed. And I think if somebody can manage their circumstance, they've a better hope of returning to some reality rather than trying to change the circumstance. So I think to manage where you are first, and then hopefully if you can move away from that and turn to people who can help you.
Yes.
Turn to the likes of Fiona, or turn to the likes of, I don't know, maybe Peter McVerry can help you. And there's many people doing many great things. So I'm just a small cog in a wheel that's been turning, I mean, long before I was born. And I'm just happy I can help just keep it turning for a little bit longer for some people.
You're an important cog, may I say, in that wheel. Well done, Fiona. And you have 2 lovely girls now, yourselves. And life is...
Katie Ellen and Lola May, they're 12, they're 13 and 11 in April, and they were born the same day, 1 year apart, and both were born on the day of my exams. So year 1, Katie Ellen was born, and Fiona had been in hospital for a long period of time in the Coombe, and I had to study at the end of Fiona's bed. They put a little mattress at the end of the bed, and I was studying for my exams at the end of the bed. And we had to move my first exam, criminal law, because Katie Ellen was born. And 1 year later, I was going in to do my company law exam, and I got a text before I went into the room, and Fiona told me she's gone into labour on Lola May. So I said, I don't believe this. So I had to tell the invigilators, look, my wife's gone into labour. So they threw me out of the exams and says, come back, you can resit them, you know.
Yeah.
And so every challenge that was kind of, you know, thrown at us was a challenge, but they were great challenges.
Yes.
Because now I can show my children and everybody's child or every person, you know, anything is possible.
Anything is possible. It really is. And I want to just leave it on that note today. You're a fantastic guy. I've so enjoyed our conversation. I hope we talk again, but I wish you well, and thank you so much for lifting my and so many other people's spirits, I'm sure, listening to you today. You're wonderful. Darren Lawler, thanks a million.
Thank you very much, Gerry. Take care.
Talk again. Take care. Bye-bye. Such an inspirational man, Darren Lawler, isn't he? Yes, he is indeed. I know you weren't watching.